It's a day India has waited for 4 years. And 1 billion plus people let out a loud cheer today as Chandrayaan-3 took off to the moon. Its liftoff was perfect, and it now carries the hopes and aspirations of an entire nation to the moon. Take a look at that precise moment that is bound to script space history.
3, 2, 1, 0. Plus 5 seconds.
Liftoff normal.
Here we have a majestic liftoff of LVM-3 M4 rocket carrying India's prestigious Chandrayaan-3 spacecraft.
P2 tracking.
Countdown has ended for the launch of the LVM-3, the rocket that is of course going to take our dreams to the moon. This is of course the lunar mission that we're talking about. You see right there in front of me, dreams of 1 billion Indians taking off as we look to write a new chapter in the Indian space odyssey. More importantly, of course, after the failure of Chandrayaan-2, many have been hoping that this day is in front of us very soon, and it is right now happening right in front of our eyes as we see this humongous rocket. Anytime now, of course, you would look at, a small separation of sorts as it leaves the Earth's atmosphere, and you can see, of course, the crackling sound, and it shows you the prowess of ISRO, the efforts that the scientists have put in, all of that bearing fruit in this successful launch up until now that we're looking at. And in a few days from now, the 23rd of August is when we're expecting the satellite with the lander and the rover to reach the surface of the moon, to achieve the soft landing that was, of course, evasive last time around. As we look at these dramatic visuals, it is a reminder that ISRO and as Indians, we can achieve any milestone that we dream of. And while, of course, many countries like the United States, like the Russians, and of course the Chinese in the recent past have been, carrying out multiple lunar missions, this, of course, is the time where India writes its own history.
After that picture-perfect launch making history, tensions somewhat eased off at the ISRO Command and Control Centre. But the loudest cheers went off at the visitors' gallery of the Satish Dhawan Space Centre. It was packed to capacity with space enthusiasts and school kids from across India. For many, this was a lifetime moment.
Did you see the launch? Did you see Chandrayaan flying into the sky? How does it feel to you?
It just feels it's legendary to be able to be here. My heart was racing as the countdown began, and then seeing it fly up and just upward away from the planet is just insane. I'm so glad 10,000 of us have witnessed it today, and I have no doubt it has made incredible.
I was very happy. It was an immense pleasure to watch the Chandrayaan lift up and go to sky, and I wasn't expecting. I'm very happy to see people are so enthusiastic about space sector now that even at this temperature everyone is there to cheer the crowd to watch the mission. So it was very, very joyful experience.
Well, with me is the ISRO chairman, Mr. S. Somnath sir. We spoke a few days ago. I spoke about how, the country is waiting for this launch, and today we've seen a successful launch. In fact, people across the world and everyone is looking at India today. In fact, the Prime Minister in France was following all the updates of what's happening here. How is the mood among the, team at this point in time?
We are very happy and proud of what we did. We were very confident of what we are trying to do. It's a LVM-3 which has done successfully well in the last many missions. So the same rocket with much more features of reliability are incorporated, because we are slowly getting into human rating of rockets. So we cannot afford to have any failure. So it is becoming better every day. So again, the Chandrayaan craft is also becoming better from last time. A lot of changes to improvements to make it land safely is also incorporated. So whatever we wanted is already accomplished.
So the takeoff is done. It was a sight that swelled our hearts with pride. 42 days later will come the moment that will increase heartbeats at ISRO considerably once again. It is often described as 15 minutes of terror. The landing. In 2019, Chandrayaan-2 had crash landed, and for the last 4 years, scientists have worked very, very hard to ensure that Chandrayaan-3 manages to make a soft landing on the lunar surface. As and when that happens, India will become only the 4th country to have landed on the moon, and we will be the only country to land on the dark side of the moon, that is the South Pole. Dr. Somak Raychaudhury is the Vice Chancellor of Ashoka University. More importantly, he's an astrophysicist as well, and he's joining me on the broadcast. Welcome back, Professor Raychaudhury, to the channel. You were with us when the launch took off so perfectly. You're with us here in the evening as well for a very quick chat. Can I start by asking you, we were talking about the fact when the launch happened, I could hear a loud cheer and a round of applause from our newsroom, and you heard the same from your classrooms as well. Tell me what this moment means for those many, many, many lakhs of students who have watched this moment live on their screens. What does it do to our scientific temperament? What does it do to encourage young people, especially young women, to look at science as their future?
Yeah, it's just, it's universal, isn't it? And so for us, sitting in front of a screen, talking to you, it was goosebumps, it was hair-raising. But people express their joy in many ways. Of course, young people shout in the streets, classrooms, people were watching here on screens in the classrooms, and they erupted. But more importantly, I found everybody in here, even the people who work in our building, the staff, people out on the streets, and I'm told in the marketplaces, various community gatherings, people were just sitting there. And now the difference is you can watch these things on your phone. So it reminds me when I was very young, when you had a big sports victory in football or cricket, and people would have these radios and they will listen to the commentary, and suddenly they will erupt everywhere, and you could figure out something has happened, a wicket has fallen, a six has been hit. It is that kind of thing, and that's what excites me. Excites me that never ever before have I heard people rejoicing at a scientific achievement. This is an academic achievement. This is a technological achievement. This is not, I don't want to belittle a sports achievement. I do not wish to belittle it. But from my point of view, having spent my life in this environment as an astrophysicist, space scientist, it is the first time I'm seeing people rejoicing the fact that we have been silently doing for so long. And also, it's not that it's been happening for a long time. ISRO has launched rockets. ISRO has launched wonderful things, but it's got to a stage where not only us, but the world is rejoicing. If you look at social media now, if I look at my mailbox, my colleagues writing from across the globe, it is just amazing. Everybody's congratulating us. And this is wonderful. That this is a global phenomenon as well as a local phenomenon of pride. We are proud, and everybody's proud for us.
It's absolutely lovely, and I'm glad this is, every time ISRO does something, it's become a television event as well. Yes, in 2019, we did see failure, but we've learned from that failure. We've clearly moved on. Now to the part that is going to be the hard part, the soft landing. 42 days, Chandrayaan 3 is going to make that journey. And on 23rd of August, if all goes well, at about 5:47, I'm told, is when the soft launch will take place. Now, we'll be the first country to launch in the South Pole. I think that has been said enough. It's the dark side of the moon. Why is a landing on the moon so tricky? I mean, I believe less than 1/3 of all missions to land on the moon fail. In fact, we had a failure with the UAE mission. We've had a failure with the Israeli mission. We've had a failure with the Japanese mission as well, only very recently.
See, it is hard to land anywhere anyway in a remote environment, partly because we used to do an experiment with students where we would give them eggs and take them to the top of the building, and then give them lots of different things to choose from, and make a lander so that they can land the egg from the top of the building without breaking it. And some people will succeed because they would take various cardboard boxes and they'll try and figure out how to make, hold it together. And this is exactly what's happening. A very fragile spacecraft with lots and lots of, this is a very standard student thing to do. And this is a direct analogy here, except that it's not an egg. It's far more precious. And it is being it is being thrown at a surface which is not very well known. It goes through a process of going through the atmosphere of the moon. There's a very thin atmosphere in the moon, which is also not very well known. And then it is being remotely dropped from somewhere about 100 kilometers, not the top of a building, right? So imagine this is not an easy job. Now, what the difference between 2 and 3 has been that once we saw that unsuccessful, I mean, it's not unsuccessful. I think it was a failure in a mission that it crashed. It wasn't unsuccessful because it taught us a lot of things. It taught us that in analysis of the event, and for 4 years this analysis have gone on. I've seen some parts of it, and in this analysis, the world has helped us. And the rest of Chandrayaan-2, which is the one in orbit, had experiments that also studied the images and where it crashed and stuff like that. And so we now know a lot of reasons that went wrong, that could have gone wrong, and slowly imagined how to fix these things. And they were a part of the hardware, they were part of the planning, they're part of the modeling, and part of the software. All of that has been changed. The other thing that has been done is that now a new place has been chosen, which is slightly safer. And now, with the help of our own instrument in Chandrayaan-2, that place has been studied much more carefully than was done last time. So we know exactly where the terrain on which this landing will happen. It's a little further away from the southern, from the original point. Now, you made a point about why people have not gone to the southern part of the moon. This is not really the dark side of the moon, it isn't the dark side, but it is the half of the moon on the lighter side that has a lot of darkness. And that is because the southern hemisphere of the moon has a lot of high mountains and very deep craters. And this shades some regions from the sunlight. And so in this deep shade, a lot of cold temperatures exist. Temperatures can go down to -200. And there you can have lurking in there a lot. We think some ice, other kinds of volatiles, lots of other chemicals that can be there. And this is one of the things that we need to study, which is in the south, that's not in the north. And people haven't ventured there before because the terrain has a lot more uncertainties and undulations in it than in the north. That makes it dangerous to land. It makes it unknown because it hasn't been explored very well. And it's got a lot of interesting things which make it worth exploring. So I gave the analogy this morning also of venturing into the depths of Africa that northern explorers did, not knowing what was in their land in those terrains. And actually, in the south of the moon, there is a lot of interesting things to discover from many perspectives. From my perspective, which is a scientific perspective, but also from the perspectives of the explorers who will go in the future to explore the moon.
Okay.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, because we are hoping for a manned mission to the moon very soon. Yes, fingers crossed. A billion people will be praying on the 23rd of August for everything to work out well. We'll leave it there, Professor Somak Raychaudhury. Good to have you on the show. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. Thanks a lot. From a scientific success now to an administrative failure, and you know what is happening in Delhi.